Welcome to the Impact Summit Series Accelerators event. This is the sixth event in a series of events powered by GSA's Technology Transformation Services, also known as TTS. We are very excited to have so many of you join us today. Like I told you at the top, I am Malaika Carpenter, and I am an 18F content strategist and designer here at TTS. Okay, so we're gonna cover a few quick housekeeping notes. So first, please introduce yourself in the chat window. Go ahead and put your name, your agency, and what brought you here today. While you're doing that, I'm just gonna go over a few housekeeping items. So when we get started, everyone's automatically muted, okay? So if you have any questions, please go ahead and just type them into the chat box, and we will do our best to answer as many as we can during the Q&A sessions. I'm already seeing y'all putting your names in the chat, so way to go. We are also recording today's session, and we will post it posted in the event page along with other resources that you'll see shared here today, okay? A link to live captioning for this event will also be provided in the chat. So if you need that, take a look in the chat. And please keep conversation at today's event related to our topic. And please make sure that you're abiding by the TTS Code of Conduct throughout our time together. For our media friends, hello. If you have any inquiries, please email press@gsa.gov with the topic you'd like to talk about and your deadline. All right, so you can already see from our agenda, we have a number of great stories to tell you. We hope today that we will bring insight into how government agencies are using agile methodologies to deliver value to the public. I'm gonna go ahead and pass things over to Nico Papafil. He is the director of 10X, and he's gonna be kicking off today's event. Nico, take it away.
Thanks so much, Malaika. Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Impact Summit Series Accelerators event. I'm thrilled to be here and appreciate everyone joining. My name is Nico Papafil, and I'm the director of a TTS accelerator program called 10X. 10X uses appropriated funds to invest in federal employees' ideas about how technology can improve people's experiences with government. It's sort of like venture capital, by the government, for government, but the return on investment is the satisfaction of making things work better. We start with a small investment of time and money, and only increase that investment as we determine the idea has a potential to deliver impact. I have a few minutes to talk to you this afternoon, but I don't want to spend them just talking about 10X. What I really want to talk about is first, what is an accelerator? And also how incredible it is to work with and for government employees who are changing how things are done. Before I go much further, I want to ask you a question via the Zoom poll. When we talk about accelerators within government, do you understand what we mean? The answers are yes, I think I know, or no, I have no clue. If you think you have a guess, please throw it in the chat window. Looking at the poll, looks like no, I have no clue, and we have some humble folks here, which I appreciate. They're at about 58%. We have another handful of folks that they think they do know. All right. The term accelerator means different things to different people. There is no singular definition, and that's okay. The way we see accelerators are vehicles, methodologies, and enablers powered through programs, ideas, and projects that try to accelerate the pace of technology modernization within government. The reason we don't have an exact definition is because this term will evolve as we're working to accelerate government modernization. If it was obvious, it would have happened already. 10X has had more than 1,000 ideas submitted to improve government experiences. And you can trace every one of them back to a common denominator, a dedicated public servant. That's what every single one of them has in common. These are folks who are taking a leap, taking their 9-to-5 hat off, becoming pioneers, submitting ideas to see if they can move the needle in a problem space, accelerating. One of the most fascinating projects we've been able to fund is the de-risking government technology field guides, which you'll hear about later. It didn't start with a huge investment or a list of requirements. It started like all 10X pitches do, with only 3 to 4 sentences about one thing government could be doing better. We gave fuel to a good idea, it picked up steam, and now it's being used across various levels of government and has been translated into over 6 languages. Another amazing project actually didn't evolve into a successful product that's being embraced by users. That's part of Accelerators too. Being brave enough to try new things and humble enough to learn from your failures. Recently, we invested in a project called Government Notification Services. Our goal was to create a shared service for the entire government that could send people updates. Imagine a single decentralized notifications platform that could text you when your passport's ready or remind you about your interview for a government benefit. Even though the project did not work out, it was incredible to be able to think and work on a problem at that scale. That's the power of accelerators. When you unleash smart people and give them freedom, original and great things happen. It's a huge privilege for me to be in this position, one where I invest seed funding into government employees' ideas, while ensuring we deliver value on every single dollar we spend. I feel lucky I'm able to have my own space to create, but even more than that, I feel humbled I can give that same safe space to project teams across government to experiment and iterate and deliver value. Accelerating the pace of government modernization can take a lot of forms. Sometimes it means helping agencies with their hiring, developing innovative ways for the government to bring in top technical talent. Sometimes it means finding new opportunities to spot and lower the risk of failure. And sometimes it means expanding our reach and finding both problems and solutions in places we haven't thought of looking. 10X does that, but so do other programs across TTS, and so do you, even if you've never called yourself an accelerator before. I hope you see aspects in yourself and your teams and the stories we're about to hear. Thank you for continuing to find problems to solve in government. Don't stop. Now, I'm going to hand things over to Ashley Owens, 18F's Director of Acquisitions, to keynote today's event and share more about why now is more important than ever for us to continue, for some, and newly adopt, for others, modern approaches to government modernization.
Thank you so much, Nico, for that warm welcome. Thank you all for coming today again as well, especially if real talk, you were like, I don't know what accelerators is, but I'm curious. I want to commend you because curiosity is the first step in trying new things, and interest is the first leap to modernization. So in today's keynote, what I want to talk to you about is kind of my journey into drinking the Kool-Aid on Agile, and why that makes me so passionate about accelerators as a thing, and all the different ways it can be applied, which is why the definition is so fluid, and hopefully clarify for you what accelerators can offer you in your space. So as Nico said, my name is Ashley Owens. I serve as the acquisition director here at 18F. 18F is another accelerator under TTS. We're a civic consultancy. We have a combination of industry folks that bring that great, innovative, best practices, industry product thinking and agile knowledge, and we fuse that with federal knowledge to help partners build and or buy digital services. 18F uses Agile across all of its different projects. And so I want to talk to you about how I came into the government and how Agile changed my way of thinking about things that I bought. So a little bit about myself. I've been contracting or in acquisition space for about 10 years. I bought a wide array of things across commercial and non-commercial services. I bought everything from horses to barges. I've done emergency contracting. I've done professional services, but there's nothing quite like buying IT. And the traditional method for acquiring IT was for us to define all of our requirements up front, put out a contract for a thing, we get a system, and then we keep using that system, right? And we keep iterating on it. So, but that's not real for how government works. Government is big and government is always changing. Government always has new legislation coming out or new regulation or new policy. And so the old way of us contracting and the old way of our systems working no longer works in this rapid adapting environment that we're in. And if anything, we've seen in 2020 that we have to create systems and mechanisms that allow us to more perfectly pivot and more fastly pivot. And that's what Agile offers the government. Agile makes the space for government to adapt to these fast changing requirements. And Agile can be a buzzword. So let's talk about what it really is. It really started off as a way for software developers to develop software. But what we found is that applying Agile transformation to all the things in the government makes it all better because of the tenets and values of Agile. What are those? Human-centered design, starting off with the user, the end user. I like to give the example of procurement systems. Somebody asking you as a contracting officer, what do you need the system to do? And fusing that with business needs to create systems that are answering user needs and quickly can adapt to change. Discovery, to define problems instead of defining solutions up front. Product thinking, thinking of our systems as products that serve our user needs and citizens' needs. Collaboration, us working all together, no more throwing contracts over the fence to vendors, but all of us working in a partnership type of way. Trust, blameless culture, working in the open so that we all can see the different systems that we're building and we can build off one another and make everything more interconnected. And we've seen these tenets and values applied across many different things in the government to improve and modernize different groups. For instance, we've seen agencies take their ATO processes from 1 year to 6 months with modern DevSecOps. We've seen procurement lead times go from up to 2 years to an average of 60 days with modern procurement techniques. We've seen millions to billions in cost avoidance because of modern budgeting. We've seen modern websites build better public user experiences and internal user experiences. And perhaps most importantly, we've seen culture changes where everybody is working in this iterative way where there's a constant trust, including with our vendor partners. The technical debt is high in the government right now. We have lots of aging legacy systems. GAO put out a report just last summer on how these legacy systems are taking up to 80% of budgets. And so we have to make room for all the new things to happen. The time right now is right for government to approach this change. Sometimes the best time to embrace change is when you're forced to. And 2020 has put us in a constant virtual state. And it seems like we are at a better place mentally even to embrace this modernization. I implore you to use Agile for that. And Accelerators is how you can make that happen. The examples I gave is what can happen to accelerate change for you when Agile is applied to all the things in your organization. In closing, I just want to reiterate that this is why Accelerators are here. I hope that you're excited about it. We have a lot of good speeches for you today to talk about what Accelerators can do. And again, the technical debt is high, and I feel like we can only pay it down together. Government and industry working together in an agile, human-centered way to create trusted modern government experiences for all. To learn more about how agencies are adapting to agile transformation, I'm going to introduce Stephanie Rivera, Senior Advisor at 18F.
Hello. Thank you so much, Ashley. And hello to everyone participating in the TTS Accelerators Summit today. I am so pleased to be here with you and incredibly excited to be spending a little bit of my Monday with two of our stellar CIOs. Okay, so let's get to it. We have with us today sure they're coming on the video. Great. We have with us today Gary Washington. Wave, Gary. You know it's you? Good. Who is the current CIO at USDA, where he administers a $2.4 billion with a B IT portfolio. This includes all of cybersecurity, infrastructure, customer support, and all of the IT policy and planning that underpins the remarkable transformational strides he's made at USDA. You know, no big deal. And our second contestant is Dave Shive in an incredible holiday sweater. He is the CIO of the General Services Administration and Vice Chair of the Federal CIO Council. He is also one of the authors of the Technology Business Management Playbook for Government that came out last year and has been gaining a lot of traction in various parts of the federal digital workspace. So as you can clearly see, we've got a couple of underachievers with us. My first question is, do either of you guys take naps ever? Consider it the holidays? No. Okay, solid. So they also do this on very, very little sleep, which is also very impressive. So let's get started on dropping some real talk on Agile and government. Let's start with you, Dave. The TBM playbook lays out some plays. Namely, you need to identify key players, the current state identification, measure your outcomes, data alignment, and through these should all lead to insights. So you've had about a year and a half, I believe, since this came out to really start testing these plays. Do you think that the plays are still applicable? And what insights have you gained since writing it?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Stephanie. I really appreciate it. First, I'll say that to my civic tech partners out there, sleep is highly overrated. So we can sleep after we're done with civic tech. Let's see. So yeah, I think that the plays are still relevant. We actually started our TBM journey about 5 years ago. And when the White House asked us to be the agency representative for the President's Management Agenda on TBM, we thought, well, we should probably take our learnings and codify them in a playbook. And so that's what you're looking at is actually the culmination of a few years of learning. All of this still is still relevant, I think. You know, you got to know who the key players are in the financial management of technology investments, your CFO, your front office, your business owners, the IT shop. You have to know kind of where you are so that you can build a roadmap to where you're going. You have to build measurable outcomes that matter and make sure that the data inputs into all of those pieces that they're believable and rational and that they will lead to good business outcomes and good business decisioning. The things that have changed maybe a little bit since then is we've learned that you should get started right now. Don't wait to make your data perfect. Don't wait to make sure you have 100% agreement by all your stakeholders. We, the federal IT community, have invested so much time and effort and resources into gathering data on IT costs and the value of IT. Even if that data is not perfect, there's actionable information contained in that data. And you can start to exploit the value of that data immediately rather than waiting to try to make it perfect. The other thing is generate your stakeholder mapping and activities right away. Get to know who wants to draw that straight line between the value of investments in technology and business outcomes, and make sure that you speak the language of the businesses that you're supporting. We as an IT community can tend to speak a little techie-like and have our own jargon. All the work that's been done in the federal government to drive in plain language into the biz ops of the federal government, we can learn from that and learn to speak the language of business in clear, plain language so that we're not confusing and confounding our business partners and our stakeholders by using our special jargon.
I love the idea of just starting and not waiting until it's the perfect moment to do it, because no moment will ever be perfect. You just have to go for it. Gary, I also wanted to ask you, with the just go for it theme, you and USDA were among the first to really test out GSA's notion of a center of excellence. I think you've used the term lighthouse before to kind of describe your work with the COEs. Can you say more about that term and how it relates to your participation in the centers of excellence?
I think that term relates to the fact that, you know, USDA was the leader on the IT modernization cap goal. So we were actually the first agency to take on a modernization effort of this scale under the Center of Excellence program, where the White House had us partner with GSA to kind of implement and prove out 5 centers of excellence here at USDA.
And a couple of them you kept on for continued sustainability, is that right? So there were 5 plays and you thought about keeping on a couple.
Yeah, actually we've kept 5.
Oh, great. Okay.
We kept data analytics, cloud computing. We worked very closely with GSA on data center consolidation, and contact centers and customer experience. So they're going very well. You know, GSA was instrumental in, you know, working with us on a methodology to transition 81% of our applications to the cloud, which we've successfully done and maintained. We've closed all of our major data centers. We only have 2 now. You know, we partnered with GSA on that as well. And we partnered to the extent where we could accurately show what we saved in cost, avoidance, and performance metrics. With the customer experience, that's really been instrumental in showing the business value of IT externally. When I say externally, I mean external to IT in terms of our programs and our customers. An example of that would be what we've done with farmers.gov. We've basically digitized how we service farmers by putting disaster programs online electronically, the market facilitation program, how we've implemented our response to coronavirus to aid farmers online. And those are just some examples to do that as well. And when people engage USDA now in terms of our contact centers, that's another partnership that we've had with GSA, where we've automated and have like a one USDA feel when you approach, you know, when you engage USDA.
That's amazing. I am struck by how you both have you've really been at the forefront of pushing modern practices within the federal government, and that's not easy. It's a big shift. And I wanted to ask you both of you a little bit about risk. It's a term that we hear a lot in coordination with Agile. Agile will lessen your risks, especially when it comes to IT. And yet the institutions of government, as they were, are pretty risk adverse. Or perhaps do you see that changing now? Gary, you first.
Well, I kind of see that changing by virtue of how we approach our non-IT partners when we partner with them on what we want to implement. I mean, an example would be agile development, if you will, is in my mind anyway, designed to include the business folks in helping, you know, providing their business requirements to get incremental development out. And we've been using that to get to make sure that they are part of the entire process and they feel some ownership in what's going on, and that they understand that this is a business-driven approach to delivering usable and valued functionality for them. And that has actually worked here at USDA. And actually that is another, that was another unintended kind of output of our activities with the Centers of Excellence is, using agile human-centered design to effectively reduce the risk factor in terms of doing something new here at USDA.
Oh, that's very cool. That's great to hear. Dave, how about you? Risk in the federal government in this day and age with Agile.
Yeah,
Better or worse than it was before?
Yeah, so risk is a tough thing. It makes well-meaning technologists here in the federal space do things that they otherwise wouldn't do, and that's disappointing. But I see that risk profile is indeed changing some. A perfect example is the pretty significant pivot in the cyber realm as agencies have gone from a compliance-based cybersecurity posture to using the risk management framework as the foundation for the formation of how they authorize systems in the federal government. That's absolutely the right thing to do. You can scale your risk management based on the actual threat or value of a thing rather than doing one-size-fits-all compliance framework that doesn't really protect the government. That's really good. What I'm seeing is that, risk, so we're all practitioners of technology here in the federal space, and we're all obligated to be risk managers ourselves. And this is so that, one, we can deliver good, practical technology solutions on behalf of the mission objectives of the agencies that we serve, and downstream on behalf of the citizens that we're serving. But that risk framework, that risk profile is getting more complex. It's not just technology or cybersecurity risk. There's reputational risk. There's oversight risk. There's debt risk, organizational change management risk. And we as technology practitioners are in a tough place to be able to manage that entire risk profile. But you know what? Agile allows us, it's one of the key tools in being able to solve to that. The old days of doing 5-year, $500 million IT engagements where you would deliver for 5 years and at the end, hope that you got it right, and are long over, especially since when you deliver under that model, the business mission objectives of an agency shift pretty dramatically. And so what you're delivering against is not in alignment with that business mission. When you're doing Agile, which includes not only Agile delivery practices, but incremental investment practices as well, that allows us to stay in lockstep with the business so that, we can build to the now, build for what our businesses need now. But if those business priorities change because of an election change, or there's technology change, or, people just assess we need to change the mission of the agency to get better citizen outcomes, that delivery can stay in lockstep as those business mission priorities change. That really, really drives down risk in the delivery of IT and allows you to not get too very far away from the business and too very far away from the transformative technology that kind of appears on the horizon every 6 months or so.
That's a great segue into actually my last question from me before we go to the audience. And this is a bit of a rapid fire question. So don't worry, it's totally easy and not open-ended at all. What's ahead for Agile in government? What should we be looking for? Dave, how about you?
Okay, yeah, I'll go first. I think what's ahead, and it's actually being worked on right now, is Agile measures to match Agile delivery. Some of the people who care about tech here in the federal space have some very traditional ways of measuring the effective use of technology here in government. And when those measures, when you have legacy measures trying to measure a new, kind of Agile way of delivering, there's a pretty big mismatch. And it doesn't tell the story about what's actually happening. And so there's a lot of work going on to make sure the measures are well aligned with the actual delivery so that we can tell the citizens that we're serving the right story of technology here in government. That's one way.
I like that. Gary,
Yeah,
when you think about what's ahead for Agile, what do you think of?
I definitely agree with Dave, and I would add that tying Agile with the procurement process in terms of delivering functionality. I don't think we're there yet, seeing as though, as David said, this is the time of taking 5-10 years to develop something and put it out there is really over with. So I think we need to do a better job across the federal government providing for, in the procurement process as well, the delivery of incremental development, that shows functionality. So I see that getting stronger as we move on. And, as we measure our usage of Agile, I think what we need to do a better job of informing our non-IT partners of their role in this whole process. I think that can be an inhibitor because, quite frankly, without them, this is not going to be successful. So I think, moving forward, I see that getting stronger as well.
Excellent. Thank you both. I think we have a couple of minutes to switch over to some questions for the audience. So let me pull those up. And our first question is, what are the challenges of implementing digital transformation within each of your organizations? Dave, do you want to go take this one?
Yeah, sure. So, in GSA, we've broken down most of the challenges, and we've been doing it for a long time here, 6 or 7 years. So now we're down to transforming at the component level. I don't mean at the organizational component level, I mean at the IT component level. At the top level, most of our systems have been modernized. But what we're finding is that the back office, down to the database level, down to the development environment level and stuff, we've built incurred some technical debt because we've been running a lot of these infrastructures for a long time. So we're going back and trying to apply the CI/CD mindset of transforming how we deliver, not just to the product that faces our user populations or the citizens we serve, but also at the practitioner level, the support teams, the developers and architects and engineers and people who are kind of not on the front line, to make sure that we're continuously improving and continuously developing new capability so they can continue to deliver properly for the citizens we serve and the businesses that we serve.
Well, thank you. And Gary, what are some of the challenges that you see implementing digital transformation? I mean, you just did it. You did a huge transformation.
Yeah, we, having 24 component agencies and staff offices, and each of them having their own different cultures is extremely complex. And getting everybody on the same page and getting them to, march towards one goal is very difficult. And we have a lot of legacy equipment systems, and at the time they were developed for some very good reasons, and we have people that have been in USDA a very long time and they feel some ownership to that. But educating them and training them on showing the benefit of what we are trying to implement has been a non-stop activity, if you will, so that they can become a part of the process, have some ownership, and make that transition a lot smoother. So I think some of the difficult, it wasn't technology itself, it was actually partnering with business to deliver things of value to them, making them a part of the process. And basically with the modernization, is not just about IT. We had to make sure that people were prepared, and in some cases, processes needed to be changed as well. So we had to take that on as well as actually do the technology modernization.
Yeah, it always comes down to the people at the end of the day.
Yes.
You put as much technology around it as you want, but it's really all about the people and the people who are driving the technology. Which leads us into, I think this is going to be our last question from the audience, but one of the attendees from a human-centered design and agile process perspective, they've asked, how do you envision UX, UI design professionals being included more towards the earlier stages of project development to increase ROI and not just at the end of the process, as they so often are, just to like make the thing look good?
So
Gary, we'll go to you first.
So it was exciting for me because as part of the customer experience COE, we actually had people go out and visit our farmers and make them a part of the human-centered design process and showed them where they were in the process and actually mapped out what they do based on the feedback we received to them. And they got really excited about that. And we took that information and that later led to designing something and delivering something of value to our customers. So we have started to take that practice and implement that more broadly across USDA in terms of, not just thinking about this after the fact, but actually leading with engaging your customers with human-centered design, making them a part of the design itself, and taking that back and actually using the feedback that we receive back from them in terms of what they do from day to day and what kind of changes they would like to see made. And actually it's not just about getting the information from them, but going back to them and having a conversation about how we used what they gave us so that they know it was a useful exercise.
That is an amazing example. Thank you. And to that person, it seems like at least at USDA, they are going to be brought into the beginning of the project. So maybe keep your eye out over there. Dave, over to you. Last question. How do you keep human-centered design at the forefront?
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. Like any good thing in life, intentionality rules the roost there. You just have to be intentional about driving design thinking and designers who are experts in that up to the very front. We've noticed since we've been doing Agile for a while here at GSA, we've noticed that as we mature as an organization in our ability to deliver using Agile, that the beginning work of delivery is more and more inclusive. At first it was, DevOps, you'd have the business and you would have, operations and builders together in the same room. And then it became DevSecOps, where you add into the security professionals in the beginning. And then we started to add in designers at the very beginning, so that inclusivity got a little more broad. Heck, now we're even building in acquisition professionals into the beginning. Ashley, that's a shout out to you. And we find that when everybody is built in the beginning there, you get all that ideation with all of those inputs in, you absolutely get the best outcomes. And then it also helps on the far side with some of the challenges associated with it. Our customers, they become addicted to the increased velocity and the increased quality of the outputs that these teams generate. And we're able to say, this is a disciplinary group. And so, yeah, we're going to be able to continue high quality, high velocity, really great stuff to you. And we're going to feed that beast, which is really, really great. But also, you know what? We have to build sprints in there for reduction of technical debt and cybersecurity sprints into there and redesign and refactor sprints in there. They're not maybe focused entirely on the delivery of new capability in a system in response to a business process need or something like that. But those are all equally important. And when you have everybody baked in from the very beginning and work as an organizational unit moving through the life cycle, that's where you get those best outcomes.
Awesome. I think it is a good place to leave it there. Thank you so much, Dave Shive and Gary Washington, for spending a little bit of your Monday with us. And I think we can turn it over to you, Malaika. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you so much, Dave Shive and Gary Washington, for sharing your experiences and your great insights about bringing your customers in early into this process and the ways that you're using Agile methodologies to completely transform your organizations. Thank you so much. So we are going to switch gears here and have an impact talk. Showing how our agency partner at Navy is implementing modern methodologies to deliver to end users quickly while responding to a rapidly changing technology landscape. And we'll get a chance to hear from our Presidential Innovation Fellow, Ken Cato, detailed to the Department of the Navy, and Navy Officer Lieutenant Peter Gao. They'll share how the Naval Enterprise improved their ATO process using DevSecOps, and I'm going to pass it right on to Ken to get right into it. Hey, Ken, you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for the introduction, Malaika. I'm thrilled to introduce Lieutenant Peter Gao, Chief Product Officer at Black Pearl, which we'll discuss today, and a founding member at Blue Jacket Forge, who are an Agile dev team within the U.S. Navy. Peter's many responsibilities include consolidating enterprise legacy systems, modernizing data IT policy and application processes, and delivering innovation tech solutions that bring the Navy's IT to the 21st century. He has been transforming the ATO process through Black Pearl, our software practice that enables the Navy to mitigate risk, ruthlessly prioritize product roadmaps, and build a team equipped with best-in-class Agile and continuous integration and continuous development skill sets that enable a constant learning and a complete feedback loop and cycle. For those that may not be familiar with the ATO process and the acronyms, it stands for Authority to Operate, and it's a very necessary authorization for any federal IT system to be available for use, and it's a very manual process today. As you can imagine, in the Department of Defense, they have a higher standard to meet the needs of national security. And these processes on average take almost 2 years to complete. Through lessons learned from United States Air Force Kessel Run Platform 1, the Naval Enterprise, along with the Office of Secretary of Defense, are moving towards making a continuous ATO a reality. I'm excited to introduce Lieutenant Gao and to dive into the details. Lieutenant Gao, thank you for being here. Please take it away.
Hey, perfect. Thanks, Ken, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm, like Ken said, Lieutenant Peter Gao, currently active duty stationed at the Pentagon, trying to figure this thing out called what is DevSecOps and trying to scale it for the entire Navy enterprise. So kind of at a high level, what is Black Pearl? So it's, we call it the internal Navy startup, which our mission and vision is to really provide that naval enterprise DevSecOps and software practice portfolio focused on enabling existing and new teams to accelerate capability delivery from experimentation to standing up their own software factory. Our vision is truly to focus on the not so fun tasks, such as like managing the back-end infrastructure and maintaining cybersecurity standards, so our customers can truly have that human-centered, or so I call it sailor-centric design, to focus on continuously designing and developing secure sailor-centric solutions that provide value to our warfighters. It's something that I've spent a year or two on right now at the Pentagon and have failed so far until Black Pearl came around. So moving on, what is Lighthouse? Lighthouse is that naval platform team accelerating digital transformation, the DevSecOps culture adoption, application modernization, you name it, we got it. So we're a team comprised of DevSecOps subject matter experts like Ken Cato from industry, partner with active duty and government leads like me to go fast, break down those barriers with that lean startup mindset to achieve this mission of providing an enterprise DevSecOps capability for the Navy. So we started this journey on July 1st with a goal of going live within our time box of 100 days. Within 75 days, we launched with an authority to operate, which means that we were able to develop and deploy production-ready systems, and which is 25 days under our goal. So what's next in our product roadmap? Well, our intention is truly to continue achieving accreditations for more secure workloads and to start strategically scaling to support our customers. Next slide, please. So this graphic highlights the fact that we at the Navy are in fact approaching this implementation of DevSecOps with the DoD enterprise mindset. So as you see Platform 1 on the left, it's that cute little baby Yoda logo on the left, has been recently designated as a primary provider of DevSecOps within the DoD. Well, they're now our prime partner. We at Black Pearl understand that there exist specific Navy mission and acquisition needs that require us to deviate like just so slightly, which requires us to deploy our own instantiation. So that being said, our intention truly is to collaborate frequently to ensure both Platform 1 and us have a common baseline that allows us to both fully start contributing to the wider DoD DevSecOps reference design, as well as the upcoming continuous authority to operate playbook that Ken was talking about and other policies that relate on that behalf. So to summarize, leveraging what we've already built and authorized within the DoD allows us as a Navy team to really capitalize on economies of scale, as well as spend more time ourselves to contribute to improving the DoD DevSecOps baseline, but also for our customers to put more focus on supporting them and responding to their customer needs. Next slide, please. So this is my favorite slide. Obviously you see my uniform here. I'm going to be an end user someday and a customer someday as I move on from this tour. So this slide resonates for me because I personally have been a victim to these anti-patterns that you see on this slide. So prior to joining Black Pearl, I actually tried standing up my own DevSecOps tech stack and organization and failed twice before joining Black Pearl. So I guess third time's the charm, right? But as an active duty officer in the Navy stationed at the Pentagon, it's made me cognizant of the fact that most of our IT modernization projects within the Navy require some sort of DevOps implementation. We were all struggling to focus on delivering those sailor-centric solutions. So pulling the string a little bit deeper, tens of millions of dollars are being spent each year across the naval enterprise to reinvent and establish that 80% technology stack and potentially that culture solution. So what this means is that technical debt that we face in the Navy leads to a lack of timely capability to provide sailors like me in the fleet. So we're unable to focus on those mission values because each organizations within their own siloed efforts are implementing their own instantiation of DevSecOps, which leads to years of wasted efforts to achieve that necessary cybersecurity standard to put their solutions in the sailors' hands. So to date, there has not been one Navy DevSecOps initiative that has been successful to scale to meet enterprise needs. So our mission here at Black Pearl is to leverage our Lighthouse team to build and maintain that 80% common baseline for all battle spaces of aircraft, ships, subs, even the cloud. This allows us to reduce those individual expenditures, but to also reduce the cybersecurity footprint by standardizing that capability. We enable those organizations with specific warfighting needs to focus on configuring those remaining 20% needs, whether that's like, we'll help you out with creating the agile lean culture to enable DevOps, or even that specific requirement for DevSecOps within your pipeline. We can try to work with you and figure that out. So what that provides you as a customer is reduce the time to market of providing your valuable solutions to truly meet those Navy warfighter needs. Next slide, please. So lastly, before I hand it off to Ken, so what is Lighthouse and what do we want to provide? So everybody knows about cloud these days at the higher level echelons of Pentagon, and they all know this thing called software as a service. So because that's such a colloquial term, we wanted to kind of steal that mindset and say, hey, we're going to provide our common baseline Lighthouse as DevSecOps as a service. So as you see on the visual on to the right, the Lighthouse graphic essentially outlines that effectively Black Pearl and our offering is an out-of-box turnkey solution that enables customers to leverage our platform and build and configure just the application and the data itself. And we'll focus on the not so sexy infrastructure and runtime and all those other things, the middleware on the back end for you. So we understand that there might be additional needs like integration of geospatial capabilities, which we already have a few requests of, and more robust analytic capabilities, as well as other technical needs. Our intention is to be a community-oriented project and a product, and to provide a continuous feedback to allow people to integrate and request new capabilities into our baseline as the demand arises. So having this common baseline means we'll manage the licenses for you, any updates and any like site reliability engineering capabilities required to ensure that your applications are fully operational with a high degree of availability and fault tolerance. So kind of summarizing it all up, now that I have provided the background of our internal startup within the Navy and presented the high level end state value that Black Pearl will provide to our customers and developers within the Navy, I wanted to turn this over to my counterpart, Ken Cato, to talk about what he's been doing at the Department of Navy and at the DoD level with the Chief Information Officer with regards to continuous ATO and cybersecurity policy. Thanks all.
Thank you for that. May I get the next slide, please? So today, the as-is state for the ATO process, we tend to count an entire system. So on average, to receive and authority to operate for an unclassified system in the Department of Defense, you have to account for approximately 1,600 controls. That's RMF controls. And it takes better part of 18 to 24 months for the assessment to occur, which is a heavily manual process. And the problem is repetition. So when we ask the question of physical site security, how tall is that fence? That same question gets re-asked to the app developer, how tall is the fence, even though you're the developer and you have no fence to worry about. Next slide, please. The approach we're taking as Black Pearl, and this has been proved out in US Air Force Castle Run during my time there, is to inherit. So if you look at NIST guidances that we use today to adjudicate RMF and ultimate ATO, we have what's called inheritance. Inheritance is where we have the physical site security satisfied, how tall is that fence, and many other controls. And it doesn't repeat again later on. So we satisfied that and have a separate ATO for the physical site. We sorted out that we could have an IaaS or infrastructure that could be cloud, that could be a data center. Those two things satisfy approximately 1,000 the average 12 to 16 of the controls. Well, our platform, Lighthouse, satisfies another 300 on average. Finally, the app developer, you, our customers, only have to worry about 40 to 120, and we automate the entire thing using a CI/CD pipeline so that your developers do not have to become experts in RMF. They simply go through a CI/CD process and learn what they need to do to get an ATO, just like they would need to figure out and learn on their backlog what they had to do to complete the feature. Next slide, please. So that's what we have today. Please reach out, connect. We have demos we can do. That is my direct email for any other agency who want to engage us. That is our current logo and hashtag. So find us on LinkedIn as well. You'll have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken and Lieutenant Guo. I'm loving that hashtag so much right now. Such a great hashtag. I think we have time for one question. And this question is, how do you balance technical needs and cultural transformation? It seems like a combo of both were needed.
Lieutenant, would you like to take that?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about the cultural transformation, and then we can pass that over to Ken. So, but long story short, truly is it was more of a teamwork effort, so divide and conquer approach. So we understood that being able to have the opportunity being in active duty in uniform, I was able to provide kind of like that sailor-centric approach. Essentially what that means was, hey, I'm an active duty lieutenant. I'm about to go out to the fleet after this tour, and I'm going to be the end user of these applications. What I quickly realized at the Pentagon was all these applications and stuff that we were building, I wasn't going to be able to see it until like 5 years down the road. So I started pulling the string and said like, hey, how do we get this, how do we shorten that timeline of us coming up with an idea and then delivering that product to the fleet? How do we shorten that timeline from 5 years down to like a couple days and be able to iterate off of that? So one of the few things is there's a couple courses that the Navy and Marine Corps have stood up with Agile and Lean and human-centered design, as well as other things, other educational opportunities that the DoD now is trying to tell people and say, hey, go to these courses and learn about a different way of doing acquisition, development, and human-centered design. And then passing over to Ken to talk about that tech stack.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for that. So for the tech stack, we built Lighthouse to enable us ourselves to be able to engage our skill sets, us as humans, to start expressing different interests and focus on what it takes to become agile, that team, what it takes to learn lead product management, how to do value stream mapping, which by the way is super valuable and applies to nearly every agency. We figured out that value stream mapping directly applies to the mission stream in the United States military. And there's a lot of goodness we can extrapolate out of how cars are manufactured to how we can scale DevOps in the US Navy.
Thank you so much for that. That is awesome. I also saw, Ken, that you dropped the link for Black Pearl into the chat. So if you want to take a closer look at that, you can. And just a reminder to all of our attendees that the recording from this event and all of the materials will be posted to the event page if you registered. And a link to that has also been dropped as well. But thank you both so much for being here with us. Take care.
Thanks so much.
All right, so next we'll hear how an agency can take an agile approach to working as a whole and recognize that this will mean a culture shift. So agile was designed for software development, but the principles behind it really are focusing on people, working together, prototyping, and adapting to change are relevant across all of the work that our agencies do. So I'm pleased to introduce two women who can talk about FDA's agile approach to culture change. The first who is with me today is Tiffany Groves. She is an award-winning project manager with a niche for developing communication campaigns that support organizational change and user buy-in of strategic goals. With 9 years of experience at the FDA, she has managed high visibility technology projects with broad impact that maintain compliance with federal mandates, increased efficiencies, reliability, and security posture. Tiffany is co-leading the FDA's Office of Information Management and Technology's culture shift toward greater employee empowerment, innovative problem solving, and improved collaboration. Hey, Tiffany, are you with me?
I am. Hello.
Hello.
Happy to be here.
Same. Great to see you. I'm also joined by Nina, and Nina Bianchi. She is brings diverse leaders together across business units, tech, and human resources to make big dreams come true. She joined the U.S. federal government as a White House Presidential Innovation Fellow in 2017, detailed to the National Cancer Institute's Cancer Moonshot. In her current role as FDA's Chief of People and Culture, Nina advances the future of work by creating interdisciplinary teams who drive people policies by prototyping emerging tech advances. Hey, Nina, are you there?
I am.
Hi.
Thank you, Malaika.
Yes, well, it's great to have you both, Tiffany and Nina, and I want to get right into this because both of you women are very experienced at what you've been doing, and it's really focused in on people, and I'm quite curious about a Chief of People and Culture role and sort of what we can learn from you. So the first question that I have is for the FDA, IT modernization starts with culture change. So Nina, can you talk about your vision for this work and how TTS is helping you to achieve it?
Absolutely. And again, thank you for having us here today. This is an awesome event. And, you know, I just want to note as well, I recently left GSA to join FDA, and I'm wearing many hats simultaneously. But I think the beauty of this work from a GSA perspective is that it's a very collaborative effort across TTS. So our Centers of Excellence, our Presidential Innovation Fellows, 18F, we're coming together across our divides and assessing the state of Office of Information Management and Technology, which is at FDA. And we're all collaborating to develop a data-driven recommendation for what the future of FDA's IT culture could look like. And, you know, working together step by step to develop plans to put this into play so that FDA can implement it and continue sustaining change well beyond our years. So Tiffany, I'd love to hear your take on this question as well.
Sure. So OIMT got to a place where it was comfortable with just maintaining the status quo. And unfortunately, that didn't allow for innovation and it left some of our staff members feeling stuck in their careers. So that was a major driver behind our New Ways of Working initiative, which we've coined NWOW. With this work, we are creating a safe environment for OIMT staff to try new methods of doing their daily tasks, conducting business, having open conversations, focusing more on user experience, and partnering with our teammates and our customers to deliver better results every day.
Awesome. So my next question for you both. So Agile Change Management involves a lot of experimenting and figuring out what works and then delivering it at scale. So what new ways of working have you discovered, and how is OIMT embracing them? Tiffany, I'll let you go ahead and kick that off for us.
Sure. So we've already began incorporating polls, excuse me, into our town hall meetings. And this allows employees to have some real-time feedback and exchanges with our senior leaders. Another great example of what we've been doing is changing our presentation style. Very recently, we had a very successful presentation where all of the key contributors of a project spoke about their individual achievements. So traditionally, project managers speak on behalf of the entire project team, but I think part of the reason why this presentation went off so well is because it was refreshing for everyone to hear directly from all of the subject matter experts and how their work directly led to success. Overall, we have seen a lot of positive feedback from our incremental steps, and we're starting to move into larger organizational initiatives that support new ways of working, like human-centered design, which is somewhat new to OIMT. We actually have a training underway right now. I am one of the members of that cohort program. We call ourselves the Solutionaries. I'm very honored to be a part of learning this new way of thinking for our organization. So we're learning that to obviously improve customer experience. That is obviously an opportunity for career development. And ultimately, we're hoping to create more efficient processes across the organization.
That's great. I love that.
I'll add a little bit.
Go ahead, Nina.
Oh, sorry, no. I was gonna add a little more in that. What I really want to point out and what Tiffany's sharing is that we have a big vision and we have a big dream, and bringing people together is part of making that happen. And I think what's really smart around the way that Tiffany's leading and others are leading within OIMT is that we're taking small steps to drive that big change. And I think Nico spoke to this, and speaking of 10X, we're looking at small investments up front to understand how we might scale over time. So thinking about small, simple changes in our meeting culture, and then looking at what works over time so that we're not getting stuck in the same sort of patterns from the past. So I think that small steps drive big change is a really important takeaway from the work that we've been leading so far.
Absolutely. And, you know, that kind of touches on my next question about what has been successful so far. But another thing that I'm taking away from what you're saying is that, like, when those small steps are starting in places where people are already gathering, like meetings, and kind of taking a subset of folks and giving them a feel of a tribe, and calling them the Solutionaries, right? And there's like a tribe around the work that we're doing, and, you know, where everyone can feel like they can go back and advocate. It seems like those things might be adding to the success, but I want to hear from you both. And maybe Nina, you can talk a little bit more about what's been successful so far and how you're measuring that success.
Absolutely. I think that we're looking to start to define what employee experience looks like. So looking at the experience of our work routine from a hour by hour, so meeting culture, to days, to weeks, to months, and then overlaying the employee experience lens. And we're drawing a lot of best practices from the great work that's been underway with the customer experience movement, because it's a similar kind of dialogue of looking at new ways of how we work, so NWOW, and then also new ways of evaluating that over time at various scales.
Nice. Tiffany, do you want to add about that? I don't know. I think I'm just really excited about the term solutionary. So I'm curious to learn a little bit more about that. But like, how are you through that group sort of measuring your progress and your success with that and with all the other measures that you were sharing with us earlier?
So at HCD and the Solutionaries, that's brand new. We are currently working through a class project to improve our meeting services, both technically and also from a soft skills perspective within the organization. So we haven't introduced that yet to the organization, but I guess just to kind of speak to metrics overall for a lot of the things that we're doing. We do have feedback loops built into our NWOW campaign, our communications overall. Like I've mentioned, we have been using polling to help us with some of that. And we will also be following OMB's guidance around customer experience, such as real-time feedback, which we are, again, in the process of collecting. And also being mindful of the types of questions that we're asking. Like, we really want to tap into the drivers for customer experience, like quality, process, and people. So we also plan to take a look at our staff development. We've baked development into one of the major tenets of NWOW. So we want to encourage our staff members to develop individual development plans and take more of an aggressive approach towards acquiring new skills. So when we see those training requests go up and people bringing these new skills and tactics and techniques to their everyday work, we'll know we've moved the needle.
Awesome. That sounds really great. So my last question before we start moving into some audience questions is, what does the future of work look like at OIMT, and how will that help OMIT achieve their larger IT modernization goals? I think, Tiffany, you were touching on this a little bit in your response before, but is there anything else that you would want to elaborate around that specifically?
You know, I think the future overall is going to look more hopeful. I think it's going to look like staff being more energized about their work, feeling more tied and connected to OIMT's mission. I think we're going to understand each other better. For example, one of our other initiatives is our cultural IQ sessions. And with those sessions, what we do is we have question and answer exchanges so that we can get to know each other a little bit better, learn about our cultural backgrounds, our values, our leadership styles, because of course, all of those things influence how we engage with each other, how we communicate, what our expectations are of our customers as well as our teammates. So I think, you know, just that ongoing learning is really going to be very valuable for us, that the HCD training, I think folks just kind of being more innovative and more collaborative and excited and engaged about their work and being able to tell very holistic stories around how the things that they're doing every day is really serving the nation and driving FDA's mission from a technical perspective.
Awesome. Nina, any thoughts on that one?
You know, I was thinking back to something that Gary Washington had said earlier, and I'm a huge fan of Gary, and I was working at USDA with the Centers of Excellence and shaping their apprenticeship program. You know, excellence is in fact a learning journey, and the learning, the lifting up talent from within, the development opportunities, and really reimagining some of those structures that sometimes can be a barrier is critical. So again, we look to USDA and we really cherish the great groundwork that Gary has led with his teams. And we're hoping that we can also hold a candle in that department, and that holding that space for learning is perhaps the most important piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Gary has other fans I'm seeing popping up in the chat, so that is really awesome, and it was great to hear from him today. So we have just a minute, but I do want to get a question in from the audience. So, and I will leave it to either one of you to take this in honor of our time. But this question is, how are you staying in touch with the needs of your employees and customers and meeting them where they are? Any particular best practices you can speak of there? So up for grabs for either one of you.
I'll go ahead and jump in on this. And this is actually echoing something that David had said earlier as well. You know, speaking the language of your business units and meeting people where they're at with language. So a huge challenge and opportunity we have moving forward is translating. So we technical experts, we love all the technical folks in this room today. We love talking our tech stuff, but that doesn't necessarily resonate with the workforce, nor does it resonate with leaders or customers on the citizen end. So I think finding ways for us to be able to translate and value-based conversations. So instead of talking the tech, maybe finding ways to connect to the human component a little more, I think is going to be big.
And listening. I'll just add on to that. Just having that two-way exchange, I think, is going to be very, very critical. Listening and responding.
Yes, leave it to the people to say those responses, but it's so true. And as someone who's a content strategist that really thinks about language and is really focused on how do we translate language coming from our UX designers and our developers in ways that are meaningful for our users, I that really resonates with me. So Tiffany and Nina, I want to thank you so much for your time and for chatting with us today. Thank you so much. All right, now, bye, take care.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Alrighty, so we are gonna keep things moving in today's event. And I'm really excited to be introducing my next colleague, who is Acting Product Director at 18F. I wanna welcome Alicia Ruo. She's gonna do a quick overview of our field guides to delivering successful IT projects in government, and plug this. This is what Nico was talking about at the top of the call today. So Alicia, I'm going to give it to you to talk us through this.
Thank you so much, Malaika. Yeah, as you said, today we're going to talk about de-risking government technology. Next slide. So the reason why we're thinking about de-risking GovTech is because we have a pretty abysmal project failure rate in government. A statistic that we know about is that 13% of major IT projects succeed in government. So that would be projects budgeted over $6 million. And the reason behind this is that agency teams are often not set up for success. The folks implementing this work can lack critical information about Agile software development. And we're talking about Agile development at all stages of the work, from planning, budgeting, implementation, and oversight. Next slide. And we know that this is pervasive across all levels of government. So this is happening in the federal agency space, as well as across state governments. So we're focused on de-risking the use of federal funding on custom IT projects across government. And we're looking at that in two ways. One is how federal funds are requested and spent when administered at the state level. And we've seen over and over again that this is the leakiest part of the bucket is often at the state level. We're also looking at how federal funds are used on technology within agencies themselves. And so to inform more successful technology delivery, we have developed a series of field guides on de-risking GovTech. This is an incredible body of work. You can read about it at deriskingguide.18f.gov. Next slide. And it covers an enormous amount of content, things like designing with and for users, and how that translates into reducing project risk, figuring out what to buy or what to build. And all of this is written by experts, by folks who have worked in government and with government over the last 5 years. So this is really a compilation of a lot of what 18F has learned since the beginning of our work. So to complement this content, this really rich field guide, we've also developed a training series to support agencies as they navigate the complexity of delivering software in a unique environment in the federal government. And these workshops cover a lot of awesome information. So first and foremost, introducing folks from across agencies, whether they are the IT staff, the acquisitions team, the security folks, giving everyone a common vocabulary and understanding of Agile and user-centered design fundamentals. Then we shift into product ownership. So really thinking about what is the role of being a product manager or product owner in the federal government? What does that look like? How to write a successful RFP. And last, thinking about the budgeting and the oversight piece. So maybe you're hiring Agile software teams to deliver and implement Agile projects. How do you budget for that? How do you shift a waterfall framework on the budgeting and the oversight side? And so some of that material covers topics like this. The importance of assigning and dedicating an empowered product owner to lead all of that development effort. So one thing that we often share with our federal partners is that the product owner, who really should be a federal employee, probably needs to spend at least 50% of their time leading that product team. Asking them to do this with less is really setting the product and the work up for risk. Things like how to write a successful Agile contract, using methods like developing a statement of objectives over a very detailed list of lengthy requirements, structuring your contract as time and materials, so purchasing software labor as labor, just that. Shortening periods of performance, so thinking through that 3 years or less should really be the time that you see sort of from contract to delivery. Ensuring that things are written in open source or requiring open source so that you're attracting high quality vendors in the Agile community. And last, developing things like quality assurance surveillance plans. So making sure that you're building in Agile driven metrics into the contract itself so your team really knows what success looks like. The material in these field guides and trainings also covers things like build or buy decisions. So this is something that so many agencies face. Should we build or should we buy? And what are the trade-offs associated with that? So one topic that comes up a lot is, are you buying commercial off-the-shelf software or COTS? Or are you really buying unrecognizably modified off-the-shelf software? So this is something we call UMOTS. It might sound like COTS, but really, it's sort of changed beyond recognition and is extremely costly to change. So all this material was developed and tested with agencies. So we've piloted this with 14 different federal agencies and state governments. And some of the impact that we've begun to see from this content and these trainings is cost and time savings. So we saw on one particular engagement that an agency had originally an over 2-year procurement timeline to get to contract. After this training, they brought it down to 4 months. We also saw in one case an agency planning over $1 billion in planned IT costs. They shaved that down 20-fold and spent $50 million on that same planned work in a series of multiple lower risk contracts. We've also seen some really incredible outcomes related to lowering the barriers to entry around the vendor pool, ensuring that we get higher quality proposals by increasing access to small and disadvantaged businesses who often are new entrants to that government marketplace, but also just seeing an improved quality of bids with the right expertise in Agile software development, right? So we're getting the right vendors to the table. And the state of Colorado just really found that these workshops were crucial to building foundational knowledge, shared language and buy-in, but also just bringing together different stakeholder groups, ensuring that we're bringing all the different groups to the table that really need to be there to deliver software. I'll also share with you something I'm really proud of, which is that through our work with the state of Michigan, we were able to get our Agile oversight guidance written into law, which will now oversee the implementation and procurement of Michigan's child welfare system, truly protecting those most vulnerable in our, experiencing the delivery of services. This has been picked up across the world. It has international relevance, and it's being reused and translated, as Nico mentioned, into 6 different languages. It's incredible work, and I really want to share it with you. So please read the guides. Check them out, deriskingguide.18f.gov. And if you want to go deeper and you'd like to get your agency involved to participate in a workshop or a series of trainings on product ownership, RFP writing, or agile budgeting, reach out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alicia, for taking us through that. That is incredible work. And I just want to remind everyone that the link to the de-risking guide is in the chat, so you can take a look at that. But that is incredible work that is happening to guide both our state and federal agencies in the practice of Agile and helping to deliver software development within government. So I want to, as we wrap up today, I want to pass it on back to Ashley Owens to take us home. Ashley. Hey.
Hey. Thanks, Malaika. This has been like so great. All of the talks. You were a great host. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really hope today brought both clarity and, most importantly, excitement about accelerators, because the realm of possible is endless, as you can see. So if you were ever like fuzzy on what it was, it's because it's very human-centered, and it's human-centered to your challenges. And we just tried to touch on like some really common ones today to show you the impact that can happen when you use an accelerator mechanism for your Agile transformation. And in keeping with Agile, because TTS is an Agile organization, I have one last poll question for you all. And that is, have you ever participated in a retrospective exercise? So I think they'll throw the poll up soon. Okay, it looks like a lot of people have participated in one, which is great, awesome. Okay, that makes my heart very happy. For those of you that haven't participated in one, a retrospective is typically it's kind of like a reflection back in software development after they've developed for like a sprint. I'm not going to say a time because it can be any amount of time. And typically in our contracts, we do 2 weeks, but you look at how things were developed. And you kind of assess like what went great, what went not so great, what was so-so, what could be done better. Again, we take Agile principles and we lay them over like all the things in government. And so I want to invite you all to do a retrospective with us. Tell us what's working well for you. Tell us what's not working well for you. Tell us what like is okay, but you think it could be better. And my personal favorite, tell us what makes you want to flip the table. Let us be your digital therapy couch. We want to hear about your challenges to make sure that we're creating mechanisms that can really help you accelerate value to your end users. And to do that, and if you have any other questions about today's events, if you have more questions or would like to connect further than just the retrospective, please feel free to contact Rebecca McBride at tts-info@gsa.gov. Also, please take a few minutes to complete our feedback survey. The link is being dropped in the chat. It will be sent out post-event as well. We'd really love to hear your feedback on how you think this went, what you think could be better. Genuinely. And also, we hope that you'll join us for our next event on the topic of artificial intelligence, which I know is like a really hot topic in government right now, taking place on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. I will be there for that exciting event. And just thank you again for taking the time out your day. I know we all have high workloads, and so for you to spend an hour and a half, we sincerely appreciate it. And have a great rest of your day.